This is actually our first episode, and I would like to welcome you all to Community Green TiniHabitat Podcast, where we explore the extraordinary journeys of different individuals. I'm your host, Yusuf, and today we have a special guest, Magdelana Burtan, an artist, storyteller, dance educator, and a professional creative. With a diverse academic background in international politics, socio-economic development, and psychology, Magdalena's journey has been about connecting the dots, self-growth, and creative expansion. She has extensive experience in strategic communications across global wellness and sustainability, and a passion for using creativity, storytelling, and performing arts to uncover deeper parts of ourselves and build more connected societies. Through leading workshops and activations in various countries, our guest has witnessed the transformative power of these art forms on individuals and communities, currently exploring the connections between body, trauma, neuroscience, and collective transformation. She is immersing herself in certifications and programs that delve into the depths of understanding our human experience. Without further ado, let's welcome our guest for this captivating conversation. Magdalena, hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you so much. Thank you for this beautiful description.
Yeah. And how are you doing today?
I'm very good. I'm very good today, yes. Grounded and calm.
Grounded and calm, unlike me, I guess. Yeah. I speak a little bit fast.
Don't worry, I think this is great. I'm feeling your energy and it energizes me.
Okay, very cool. One of the first questions that I want to ask is, looking at your bio and reading the stuff that you have done, I was interested in like your background in international politics, socioeconomic development, and psychology. And I would like to ask, how it has influenced your creative journey on wellness, and how did you make your decisions based on the background you have?
Yeah. It's a really beautiful question, because for me it was this journey wasn't really intentional. I rather followed my curiosity at different moments of my life. And initially that was more focused on international relations and social change and yeah, how to change and influence things at a very big level. And then the more I looked into myself and the more I contemplated the world, the more I realized that I wanted to study the individual, and therefore I switched more into studying psychology. But pretty much all my studies and my interest concerned change, some level of change. Initially social change, and later on individual and personal change. And how that influences my journey, like I said, it's a reflection of what I'm curious about step by step. Then it's also, it definitely influences my perspective on how I see things in wellness, how I see things in the world today, how I see connections between all these different sides, social, personal change, and also how I think we should not get maybe enclosed in one area that is just systemic change, or there's just social change, or it's just climate change, or it's just personal change. It's actually all these things are very much interconnected. So for me, it's really about connecting the dots and following the journey. It's a combination of my interests and also like my personal needs in a way.
Okay, so one thing that got my curiosity is like, is there a specific moment do you remember when you said, okay, I want to go more onto individuals, not as in like looking into maybe broader perspective, but I want to focus on individuals. Is there like specific moment you remember?
Yeah, I mean, of course, this was when I realized I had to look into myself, right? This was when I probably had like a crisis, like I don't know how you call it, but like a personal crisis or like an emotional crisis, when I was 26 and I was in a job in London and I did all these big degrees and I was and it just came to me, these bigger questions of what do I really want to do in my life, right? Because I can do degrees, I can study change, I can study social change, and for a long time I had this idea that I want to have impact, right? But later, when I actually started to ask, ask myself these questions, okay, but what do I actually want to do? I actually want to have impact. I actually want to change. I actually want to do degrees. I can study change. I can study social change. And for a long time, I had this idea that I want to have impact, right? But later, when I actually started to ask myself these questions, okay, but what do I actually want to do? it wasn't about impact anymore. It was about because impact is such a big word, right? That doesn't really mean much if you think about it. But it's when you ask yourself a more personal question, it's more about, okay, what I really, who am I? Who am I first? Who am I? Right?
Yeah.
And then maybe what can I bring into the world? How I want to contribute to the world. So for me, this more personal aspect of change and growth obviously was related to my own journey, and to the moment when I decided I need to ask myself these more important questions that are more about going inward before I go out to the outer world.
Okay, I see. So you're saying that one day you had some sort of an insight coming into yourself, right? Like one day you were just sitting, something happened, and that's what I was wondering. Like, I mean, how did that happen? Because for me, when I go to walks, I get my insights. Let's just say, or sometimes in meditation too. But for some reason, when I am like when I am in action, I'm walking, I'm just not particularly thinking about something that whatever I was working on. When I'm just walking, those insights come up. So that's what I was curious about. Like, how did that insight come up?
For me, this insight was connected to a discomfort I was experiencing. Wasn't like this, general kind of, oh, aha, this is an insight I'm having. It was more, I was feeling a lot of discomfort, surrounded, having a 9-to-5 job and really great education, and actually a job that was very purposeful, because I worked in the wellness world and in the health world, and we were making really amazing products that were actually really helping people health-wise. But for some reason, it was not connected to my sense of purpose. And so there was a comfort, so like connected to it. So this was the moment when I was forced. It wasn't even an insight. It was more like I was forced to look into these important questions in my life.
Okay, cool. That's cool, because I think many people in life they are not satisfied as well. Today our society is like a drug society. You're whenever you're free, you're getting your phone. Whenever you're free, like you're just like watching a TV show on Netflix, whatever, and you don't have time to get inwards. I think your advantage was even though you were like doing 9-to-5, you were able to get inwards and think about this, right? Many people are not able to think about this, and which that connects us to our second question, actually, which is like, working on global wellness and sustainability for a long time now. How do you see the intersection between creativity and building more connected societies? Because nowadays, thinking about building connected societies, it's hard, right?
Yeah, this very much goes back to what I just said about looking inwards and asking yourself, these questions about who you are and what you are passionate about is also really important. But what really drives you and what you're curious about, and for me, this is what creativity is. It's really about looking into myself and then expressing and acting from that truth. And this can be the truth and an emotion of a particular moment, the truth of an experience that you're going through, and it can be challenging sometimes. The truth of a color that you see and it's fascinating you, right? If we talk more about aesthetic, like that is creativity for me, to really see something, to feel it, to experience it, and then to bring it out into the world in a form, in a poem, in a dance, in a film, in a photo, in a photography. And because it's first about you uncovering a part of yourself, and knowing yourself, which ultimately, how I see it, helps you gain more and more inner peace. Then for me leads to us being able to build more connected, first of all, to build relationships, better relationships, more connected, more intimate relationships, and then later to build communities and then build societies, right? But it starts somewhere. It starts somewhere with you. not in the way that now I am the most important person in the center of this universe, but I am with myself. I know myself and I can be with myself, and therefore I have the space also to be with other people and build societies and communities from that place.
Okay, I see. Well, what you're saying is basically, a person needs to turn inwards and know themselves at first to, like, being able to connect with others, right? In a sense. But I think many of our audience are, meditating, doing hiking, or like doing psychedelics, like many of the stuff. But maybe there are some people who are not able to turn inwards because, I mean, that wouldn't be common as well, probably because many people, as I mentioned, they are addicted to many of the subtle stuffs. Like maybe they're overthinking, maybe they're like addicted to social media, mobile phones, Netflix, whatever. So what do you suggest, like, those people to turn inwards? Like, what should they do?
Just do whatever sparks your curiosity and grabs your interest, really. I don't think there's one thing for everyone, and it's just meditation, or it's just nature, or it's just creativity. I think each of us has a thing that will spark some kind of, I would call it a journey, that will force you to look a little bit more inwards, because there will be more likely challenges on that way, because usually what really is attracting you, then you will have some resistance towards. Very often, like in the path of an artist, this is very, very clear, because there's so much blockages. We can talk about it later. But I just feel like whatever is kind of sparking the curiosity of your heart is gonna bring some challenges on the inward journey. So maybe you don't even need to think so much about doing all these things every day, like meditation and stuff, but do follow your spark and do follow your curiosity, and that will be a journey on its own.
Yeah, okay. For example, I'm thinking if a person is they want to build let's just say business, like and it's just they're doing this for money, but they are really passionate about that, right? Like they are passionate about building a business. Or it doesn't even have to be a business. Some people might be challenging, like they might go overboard. I think having the balance as well, like just following your passion, do you think would that be have a like meditative effect, or like turning inwards effect? When I think about it, like life has a lot of branches, and just focusing on one thing and just doing that might not be really have that kind of meditative effect, don't you think?
Yeah, so I guess we're talking about two different things, right? The meditative effect, which is more about connecting to presence, and then the contemplative effect, which is more about asking yourself these questions, right? Of like who am I? What do I like? What is really interesting to me? How do I like to connect? These are two different things, right? So yeah, in terms of the meditative effect, then there will be, it's more about connecting to the present and the present moment. So these things that you're talking about, okay, watching Netflix or overthinking. Oh, I overthink so much. Like I have like a ridiculously active brain. So obviously, yeah, there are things I do so I can be more present. And then definitely for me that is art, and that is writing, that is singing, that is dancing, that is being in nature, and that is sports. Sometimes it can be really high intensity too. Something that will bring me back to presence, because we need to, in order to be present, actually, we need to get into our bodies. Really, we feel present, we become present through being in our bodies. It's actually not so much about being in the mind and observing. It's about feeling the body and then being able to observe from that place, right? So that's the meditative effect. So if you ask me what do you do in order to be more present, I would say do anything that brings you back to your body, whether that's sports or art or walking in nature. And then when it comes to this contemplation of life and of you and your own journey, then this is where I say follow your curiosity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, making that two distinction was, I guess. I was just thinking too, as in like turning inwards, but I guess, you have to make the distinctions. All right, cool. I made a new distinction today. Right. Okay. So one of the other questions that I was asking. So led some workshops and activations in various countries. It's also mentioned in the bio. So can you give us a glimpse into the impact of these experiences? I mean, I wanted to ask this question also because just we're talking about turning inwards and going into these different kind of workshops. Also, I think have that kind of effect. Can you give us the glimpse into the impact these experiences have had on the participants and the communities you've worked with? Also, I'm also curious about like what is to come in the future for your workshops.
Yeah, so I think to know the impact that my workshops have had on the participants, we would really need to ask them.
Yeah.
And it's a great reminder to do it. But I guess my intention for all the workshops that I did and pretty much all of them are at the intersection of performing arts. This includes
Mm-hmm.
acting and dance and personal growth. So I always like to connect these two things. Then my intention, first of all, is always to bring people back to their bodies and to like the primal expression of their bodies. So whether that's about, making weird sounds or moving in a silly way, that is always my purpose first, so that we really get out of the thinking mind of what we can do or we cannot do or what is appropriate and not appropriate, obviously with some boundaries, but it's just about removing all of these blockages that our minds are putting on us all the time and just getting a little bit more wild, a little bit more primal, a little bit more playful. It's always about playfulness for me. Always, my most important intention is to bring people back to their bodies and out of their heads in a way that is playful and fun. So I hope that's the impact I've been having. And then secondly, it's always about really connecting you to creativity and expression, but in a way that is much more about being the true you, than performing or producing something. Right. So my intention always when I work with people creatively is to really help them just express themselves as they are in the moment, or express some kind of essence of themselves rather than producing something or like becoming something. It's really about authenticity for me. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that answers my question. What's to come? Like, do you have any kind of different things that you want to try on, or like what's working, what's not working? Probably, or like when you're doing these, you have different ideas for what's to come next. So, would you be willing to share those as well?
Sure. I have plenty ideas all the time, and many things are forming in my head. Right now, I am really interested in the connections between storytelling, psychology, and performing arts. So basically, how we can change our thinking more through working with images, for instance, rather than our thoughts. It's a more creative way. It works more on the subconscious level, or how we can express ourselves in movement and then learn about our emotions from that place. So it's basically all about how to use more creative ways to get to know yourself and the world.
Okay.
And the second thing that is coming, and it's a little bit more precise, is I am building a platform which is called this We Speak Body. And my purpose for this platform is basically to share knowledge and hopefully practices in the future that will help people get back to their bodies, but pretty much also realize that embodiment is really about paradigm change and about culture change. And it's really coming back to the living body as an organism from which we can make decisions, like runs opposite to the paradigm of the modern society, which is really machinistic. right? And it's becoming more and more and more about and more about tech and innovation and, you know, all these amazing things that progress, which is really good, but at the same time, often it takes us away from the aliveness that's available to us. So for me, it's really, We Speak Body is about that. It's about cultivating that aliveness in the body and sharing resources, sharing practices that will help us feel more alive, more connected, and more safe in our bodies, because there is a lot about safety there too.
Yeah, but what does the platform do then? Like, is it like, because you said knowledge sharing, is it gonna be something like a Wikipedia, or like I didn't get that.
Well, yes. So right now I'm building social media accounts, and I'm also building an online platform. It's not going to be like a Wikipedia, but it's going to be definitely, you know, very perhaps short conversations and resources for people. I'm not sure exactly about the form quite yet. I'm working.
Okay, cool then. You know, we'll maybe do another episode when you have shape up the platform, right? So one of the other things that I wanted to ask, you know, reading your bio, there's a mentioning of there like surpassing your limits on stage as a dancer, right? Could you share some of these challenges you've faced and how they've contributed to the self-growth and creative expansion?
Yeah, you know, for me, performing arts, dancing, and also acting, I have background in acting. Probably these things were like my biggest like catalyzers for personal growth in a way, and it wasn't intentional. Like I didn't become a dancer, or I didn't go to acting school in order to be a better person in a way, right? That's what we do when we do personal growth. It was much more about, I was super interested in it, and there was something pulling me there. But it was a big catalyst in terms of personal growth, because performing arts is all about getting out of yourself and like getting out of your own in a way. It's really about conquering your fears in a way, around shyness, around being in front of other people, around expressing yourself, around expressing your emotions, around creating, around improvising. So it's just a constant journey of putting yourself out there and being okay with it.
Yeah.
And acting particularly was really really strong for me, because in acting you have this permission to be anyone and everyone at the same time. It's you know, one minute you are acting on anger, and second minute you're acting on joy, and then on sadness, and it's just, you just realize you have all these parts in yourself, you have all these colors, you have all these textures, you have all these emotions, you have all these personas, and at the same time you can be everyone and no one at the same time, right? If you can be everyone, then who are you really? So it really shows you that depth and that diversity there as human beings.
Okay, well, one day I was just walking and I met with an American lady on the street, and on Istanbul streets, actually. It was one of the crowded streets, and she was an actor, right? And we were just like, I asked her, you know, can we do an improv, because I've never done it before, right? And she said, yes, let's do it. And we did it a little bit. She said, you know, you're good. I mean, if you work, you know, you could become maybe an actor. And I was like, I was very happy about it. But I mean, I can, I guess I only acted once. I can't really relate on what you were saying, but I can only imagine. Also, you know, when it comes like conquering your fears, I think that's where self-growth happens always. Like you need to stretch your comfort zone. You need to be always out there, really, to improve on something. And it doesn't even have to be really self-improvement. Let's say I am playing the keyboard and I want to get good at it. I can't always play the same things. You need to stretch that comfort zone. And I think the main problem is these days, it always comes back to that problem that we talked, like 20, 30 minutes ago, people are not putting themselves out there because they are addicted to something, right? Or they're just like not stretching that comfort zone.
It's scary, right? Like it's super scary to go out there. And I mean, I remember when I actually went to acting school already after I did all my degrees in politics and international relations. So it took a lot of kind of courage for me to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna do something different now. And I remember I spent maybe one day at home, just not being able to move. The day before I was going to the acting school for the first day, because I had so much fear, and like I just like it almost paralyzed me. That first of all, I'm going to do something very different. It was also connected to that, and then secondly, it's going to be putting myself out there. But at the same time, there was something pulling me there, right? So I tell myself I had no choice. But yeah, it's scary. It's normal people don't do it because it takes a lot of courage, and it puts you on the edge.
Yeah.
And all you have there at the edge is yourself, right?
Yeah, it's I guess, having individuals around you that pushes themselves helps a lot. Because once you see those people growing, you can't help but yourself, just you want that. I guess everybody wants to grow, but they're a little bit scared. And when you have, around yourself, when you have individuals, they're not growing, they accepted the, status quo, like 9 to 5 job. And, they don't, like, once they come home, they don't just do much. They don't want the bigger life, right? If you have individuals like that around you, yes, obviously you're not gonna probably push yourself because it's scary. So that's why I think socializing, listening in people, like conversations like this, or also maybe looking at the areas where you want to develop and see all those different people, how did they develop themselves, how did they push themselves, helps a lot. Sometimes when I watch a movie, people cry, right? Like something happens and they cry, and when you think about it, it's all staged. It consciously, it's all staged. I'm watching a movie right now, but why do you still cry? I think that's because it connects us with the bigger life that we must have inside of ourselves. Like, you connect with that, you see that, oh, I can't really achieve this right now, but this person on the screen has done that. You get to cry. I guess that's my own opinion about this. But yeah, I guess surrounding yourself with different people like that would help. Yeah.
So I wonder, so were you saying this is about seeing someone achieving something great and then you having emotional about it, or it's about seeing something emotional and then feeling that? It was more about being great, right?
Yeah. It's actually both at the same time. You even if it's staged, you get to cry about it because it connects with you, I guess. So I want to switch to another question. Currently, it's also in your bio. I get most of the information on your website, by the way. We are gonna talk about those links as well. But so in there, you say that you're exploring the connections between body trauma, neuroscience, and collective transformation through certifications and programs. And I would like to ask, what have you discovered so far, and how do you envision this knowledge benefiting individuals and society as a whole?
Yeah, this is huge. There's one professional training program that I'm doing right now. It's called Body Dreaming, and it's an embodied practice. It's a therapeutic method developed by a psychologist, a Jungian analyst with 30 years of experience in her practice. And this method specifically aims to heal developmental trauma. So it's trauma that happens at very early stages of development.
Yeah.
It happens either when you are in the womb as a little baby, or later in the very first years of your life. And it's basically encoded in your nervous system. And basically the theory is that the level of attunement that you receive as this little human being, and by attunement I mean emotional attunement, so how your caretaker responds to you crying or to your changing emotions, basically to your different states, and how attuned they can be. then this is going to condition how your nervous system develops and the amount of safety that you feel in the world, and how you relate to the world, how you relate to yourself, how you relate to others, and even how you relate to your jobs, because it just really conditions our responses and conditions how the nervous system develops. So this is really teaching me about the importance of the nervous system and of the importance of the very early years of development that we are completely unconscious about, and how this affects our everyday lives, again on a very unconscious level. And then the answers to that, how we can see it more in the everyday, is in the nervous system. Is for instance, okay, am I feeling safe expressing my emotions, for instance, right? To a friend. If I'm not feeling safe, or if maybe there's something I'm shameful about, or maybe I'm even feeling aggressive towards myself because I have a certain emotion or resistance towards it, that's already showing that at the level of the nervous system, there is some kind of a disconnect. There's some kind of misattunement. Yeah. So that, to answer your question, this is what I'm learning. And in the bigger picture of things, it really shows me that the body is really, really important. When we talk about healing, even when we talk about, bigger changes, social changes, building more connected societies, because it really starts from even the nervous system of the individual, and the feeling of safety that you have within yourself, and therefore that you will have with others and in the world. So this kind of nervous system level is really important.
I just have the general knowledge about traumas. I mean, I know that everybody carries some trauma, whether it's like a very heavy one or like a, very, I don't know, light one. But I mean, those traumas really have a lot of impact on our life. I know that, if the trauma is early, like when you're a little baby, or like maybe a children, or like even in probably in elementary school, maybe it gets harder to really like remove that kind of trauma, right? And you're saying this work really helps to the ones that as early as possible, like even when you're a baby, or like an elementary school student, like if you have those traumas, this work helps to discover those and remove those.
Yeah, it's from an even earlier time that we don't remember and that we are not aware of. And there's also implicit memory. So some things can appear because there's an event that happens, and then that event brings a memory from your body. And that's implicit memory. It's not necessarily something you're conscious about. And yeah, this method helps you heal these things. I wouldn't quite say remove. I don't like that word. It's not about removing.
Okay.
And yeah, it's because it's like you are not broken.
Yeah.
We all have things. We have traumas. We're complicated human beings. So, this is not becoming some kind of a being of light with no traumas. It's not possible. And it's not it's not human, right? It's the human experience that we have about it all. But it's this method helps to develop a nervous system that is more safe and more grounded, so that anything that comes your way, you can take it, you can be able to hold more space for it, and it also helps you heal maybe some resistance that you have towards relationships, or anxiousness or fears that surround it, because it's a lot about being in a relation to something. And so anything we have there that is fearful or anxious, that helps, this method helps us heal it. And it's not about so much going into the past and like analyzing how my parents treated me or something like that. It's all about becoming very much attuned to your body, then to the emotions if they arise, and then to the physical sensations behind those emotions. So it's about developing that attunement to yourself. So for instance, like if I get angry, it's it's like I don't want to escape from it and be like, okay, I'm not gonna like, okay, this is not happening, right? But perhaps there's a way for you to recognize and see where anger happens in my body right now. What are the physical sensations associated with it? And this work is really about going into these things. And then actually what happens is that just the moment you notice and you provide space for something, it already heals itself. And having an attuned therapist is really useful here. I mean, you can do this work for yourself, but then having an attuned therapist is really important because it's all about co-regulation. So another person helping you regulate your emotions, especially if you didn't have that before in your life. But in a very general way, it's teaching you how to be with yourself.
And do you like to integrate this with your workshops, or like maybe back then, maybe have you done that, or do you plan to do so?
I integrate it in the way that if something happens, if I can see that, for instance, someone might have I don't know, like a more emotional reaction to something, or maybe they might not feel safe in their bodies or going there. I have these tools to maybe explore what's going on there, right? Because there might be a lot that happens. So I don't bring it directly into group workshops because this is more of a one-to-one work. But I use that knowledge to basically make sure that I am providing safe space for everyone. And also there are some techniques from somatic experiencing is a method developed also to heal trauma. It's all about connecting to the environment and co-regulating with the environment. So basically just simply slowing down and focusing on what I'm seeing at the moment, right? Leaves, sky, shapes and colors of the roof where I am now in Lisbon. And already these things will bring me down and will calm me down. So some of these techniques I can use, for instance, in an intro in my class to just bring people a little bit more down, right? When we sometimes get into a workshop at a class, everyone is thinking about something, we're in a rush. So just to arrive in the space, these are the techniques, the tools that I can use, and also to calm the nervous system, especially if people have anxiety or are overthinking a lot, like mentioned earlier. So yeah, there are some simple techniques to bring you to the present moment and regulate your nervous system, which I would use. And then more of these, and then also to work maybe with people one-to-one at some point.
Well, by the way, if you have sky and leaves and birds over there, here I have nothing. It's like black wall and couple of lights. So I can't be present. It's a bit hard for me to. Okay.
Like you can always relax into your chair and see all of these things. It's available.
Well, I would prefer skies and birds and leaves, that's for sure. But okay. I'm stuck in this black room. My other question is gonna be, as a person who's creating these workshops, do you think what are the key elements that make a workshop or activation successful in terms of engaging participants and fostering a sense of connection and transformation between people, and also between the the student and the teacher, in a sense?
Well, I'm definitely still exploring that with every workshop or activation I do. So it's a question that I ask myself. But I do believe that when it comes to fostering connection between people, playfulness and introducing any type of play is really, really helpful. So any exercises in pairs or any group exercises. And I really think like the more playful we can go, the more fun it's going to be, and the more connected we can be in the experience with other people. So I try to bring a lot of these things. And when it comes to fostering the relationship between me and the others, for me, it's all about listening, observing. It's really my role as a teacher is not really to teach so much in the experience like this, but more guide. So active listening and observing and enacting from that place is really important. This is how I see my role, and this is how I work best.
Yeah, and I actually that's true for normal relationships as well. In a sense, everybody wants to speak. I guess slowing down and listening is one of the best options, because back then when I was in high school, I wanted to be a good storyteller, and at the same I was doing a lot of presentations out of volunteering. I didn't even want scores from the teachers. I just wanted to like practice that skill because I liked that. And the thing that I learned early on was, just by speaking you don't get nowhere. Like, you need to be able to listen if you want to be able to, like, if you want to be a good storyteller or like good speaker, you got to be able to listen. And that's where you actually create the connections. That's for sure. Okay, and one thing that I would like to ask also as well, like, what are some of the books or movies, TV shows, if there's any, that changed your life? Is there anything that you would like to share?
I have two. The first one is called The Artist's Way. It's a pretty popular book, The Artist's Way. It's about unblocking yourself as an artist. It's like basically a Bible for artists, I would say, because it explains you all the traps of the mind, all the traps of the ego that will stop you from creating or even believing you can be an artist or you can be creative. And then it applies to people who consider themselves artists and people who do not consider themselves artists, right? Because I think each of us has a creative.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be like traditionally sense of, okay, you're an artist if you play piano, or if you're doing music, if you're doing like, I don't know, drawings. I think nowadays it's more enlarged. But sorry for cutting. Like, please go on. I just wanted to add that.
No, totally. I mean, yeah, you can make art from, I don't know, maybe you can say anything, but I know a friend of mine loves motorcycles, and it's his craft. It's art, right? To make these beautiful vintage motorcycles. So that could also be the way you express yourself into the world, right? So there's different ways. And the Artist's Way is definitely taking you there and asking you all these very important and uncomfortable questions. And so that's a book I would definitely recommend to anyone who's feeling a call to create.
And before you go to the second book, like, what's the author's name, if you remember? And also, like, how this actually changed your life, in a sense. Can you also elaborate on that as well?
Sorry, say again.
I thought you were going to go to the second book, so I asked, if you remember the author's name, that would be nice.
Julia Cameron.
Okay.
The Artist's Way. Yeah.
Also, I also wanted to ask, if you were to elaborate on how this book changed your life, in a sense, like, as Magdalena Burtan, after you read this book, how did it change your life?
Yeah, so this book actually came to me at the moment of the crisis that we talked about earlier. So I told you when I was 26, I had this moment of like, okay, what am I really doing here with my life? I'm having this great job. I'm having these amazing degrees. I wanted to have a job with impact, but what does this really mean? Who am I really? And this is when this book came to me, and it made me realize I'm really creative at heart. And I simply have been blocked. I've been largely blocked from expressing my creativity and my true self. And this was like the first step to in this kind of opening journey and asking myself, okay, so what do I want? So like I've danced all my life, but actually when I was in London and when I was studying, I had a break for around 4 years. So this book brought me back to dancing, and because also it was a lot about personal development and how you see yourself and all the blockages that you need to go through as an artist. It also made me interested in psychology. So I think this is when more or less my journey, that we're talking about now, all these connections that I'm exploring in art and psychology and personal growth and change and storytelling and wellness. I mean, all of these things really started with this book. My interest in these things started with this book. First, because it made me realize creative at heart, and secondly, it made me realize I need to look into myself in order to grow in the direction that I want to go to. So that made me interested in psychology, and later all these things like trauma and healing. So this is how this book changed my life, really.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so maybe you've heard this one too, the War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. For some reason, you say it sounds a little bit similar for some reason.
Yeah, I heard of that book. I heard of that book, and I think it's a pretty similar concept. Yes. Yeah, I also wanted to read it. I haven't read it yet, but it's about a similar thing. It's about the war on creativity, the war that you're fighting with yourself before you put something into the world that is really coming from the core of your being. And this is what creativity is, right? Like you said, it's not necessarily about art. It can be a project, it can be a business, it can be a poem, it can be anything. But if it comes from you, you will have to fight a war. You will have to fight a war with yourself. And that's what that's what creative journey is about.
Yeah, so I love the War of Art. I actually read it probably like it's not a big book, it's a slim book anyways. I read it like 2 times a year for sure, just to like it helps me to ground myself in this work, right? And that's why I love it, and that's why I'm like very intrigued with the artist way. I'm definitely gonna check it out. What's the second book, by the way? You said there were 2 books, right?
Yeah, the second book is called The Path is Everywhere, by Matt Licata. And Matt Licata is a psychotherapist. He's based in Colorado in the US. And this book for me is a book that makes therapy and art, and is the message of this book is that no matter what you're experiencing in your life, whether that's sadness, despair, being completely lost or confused, is a path on its own. And it's a path towards wholeness. And it really is, for me, it gave me permission to feel. As a feeler, I feel a lot, and it gave me permission to feel everything. And it also came to me in a moment when I was really lost and I really didn't know the answers to what I want to do next, and I really tried to push for the solution, or like for the next project. Okay, so what am I going to do? I worked in freelance and I tried to figure out, okay, where I go next with my creative work and what is going to be the next project. But at the same time, I just felt completely lost and very, very tired. And I did not want to allow myself to feel that way, right? Because I had to do something. Like I had to figure it out. And no, this book just let me be with whatever was happening. And at that time also my granddad passed away. This was 2 years ago. And this book came to me and just allowed me to feel. And there's, how as simple as it sounds, it really gave me permission to be in the experience that I was having at that moment. It was a very difficult experience. So that book is really, it's a very beautiful book that is also written in a very poetic language, but it's like a cozy blanket for the soul. For me, this is how this book works, really.
Yeah, it's not as it's simple, to be honest. Like, I mean, expressing emotions is not an easy thing. Coming from wherever, like, some people have problems expressing their love, some people have problems expressing their excitement, anger, all that sort of stuff. And it's a thing we should focus on, learn on, that's for sure. And I'm sure, many people who are watching this, like, they must have some sort of problem expressing one of their emotions at least, right? I mean, I had it back then too. I worked on it. I think I'm still working on it, but it's not as a like simple problem, in my opinion. People should work on that.
Yeah, because emotions have such a bad press.
Yeah.
I would put it, right? It's we fear emotions. We don't want to feel emotions. Emotions are messy. Emotions put us in difficult, uncomfortable places. Even if it's joy sometimes or love, that can be scary. Success is a big emotion sometimes that we run away from, because also it's a very strong emotion to feel, like a state, like a feeling. So we are kind of, in a way, I don't know, primed perhaps to avoid emotions. So it's and this goes back to what I'm learning also through body dreaming, because it goes back to this attunement that that perhaps you received when you were little, or maybe you did not, and then the attunement that you can now learn to give to yourself. And very much, it's the very basic level. It starts with with giving yourself the permission to feel.
Yeah.
Right. And this can last for 5 seconds. That I am just with my sadness right now, or it can be longer if it's necessary. But it's just really about accepting that, and that we are feeling creatures. Some of us feel more, some of us feel less. It's very natural. We wired differently, but we are feeling creatures. And in fact, when we allow ourselves to feel, that's also a gateway to experience more beauty in the world, right? More pleasure, to appreciate the beauty of nature. Nature has to be felt to be experienced, right? So yeah, I do believe strongly in the power of that, and in allowing ourselves to just feel more and be with it.
Surpassing emotions is not a good idea. I mean, you can live with that for a while, but afterwards you're gonna have big problems in your life. I mean, at least that's what happened to me. And when I observe like different people, that's what I see. But like, there's also this different thing. Like, each individual emotion is like a little bit different. Like, for example, I've read a book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. It's a great book. It's more of like practical application. It's not so much of like spiritual self-help type of book, but it has, it argues this, like, when we feel enjoyment, like, everybody has like an enjoyment thermostat, right? Like, I mean, when you get to a threshold, like, you're enjoying something good happened in your life, once you like past that threshold, you sabotage yourself, you sabotage your life, your relationships, and everything, because you inside you feel like, I can't feel that good. I mean, enjoyment shouldn't last that much. So, for example, enjoyment is a little bit different than probably anger or sadness, but that was a different idea. We all have enjoyment thermostat, and we want to like increase that, and as you become more successful in life, you want to increase that, because then otherwise you're going to sabotage and make yourself down most of the time.
Yeah, it's very true. I read something similar. It's very interesting. It's very interesting to notice yourself in those moments and be like, Like I can be great now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, because
It's again about this letting your nervous system experience that and be like, and really feel that through your body and be like, okay, I can take now that
yeah,
level of joy, I can take now
yeah,
that level of success, right? And there can be some tension that comes with it, and then it's okay. There will be.
yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, it's been really a great conversation. I think these are all my questions. And is there anything you want to add? Any commentaries or anything that you want to tell to our audience?
Well, I'm just super grateful for this conversation and for having the invitation to speak. And yes, if anyone would
Yeah,
like to reach out to me, I'm very open.
yeah.
You can find me on their website.
I'm actually gonna
And
tell all that stuff in a couple of minutes. But yeah.
okay, okay, amazing. So yes, so yeah, I'm open to connect anyone who wishes to talk.
Yeah, awesome. So if you want to follow Magdalena Burtan, like, sorry, I I still can't say it right. Excuse me for that. But so if you want to,
You're saying the English name of my surname because in
ah,
Polish it's Burtan,
oh,
so it's
okay,
very
yeah,
different.
okay. Well, I mean, most of our audience are gonna probably be English speakers, so maybe it's gonna be easier for them to.
Let's make it international.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, my name is, people pronounce my name a lot differently as well. If you want to follow her, there is a website. Her website is magdalenaburtan.com. Also, she has an Instagram, magdalena.burtan. She also has a Facebook. I don't know if you use this to connect with people, but still, if you want to follow her on Facebook, like magdalena.burtan.5. It's gonna all the links are gonna be all in the description. So yeah, you're gonna be able to find that easily as well. All right, yeah. Then that's it for us. Thank you for coming in. And I wish you success on your new platform as well. And I would like to hear more about it in the future as well. Have a nice one, guys. Bye bye.
Have a nice one. Ciao.